Hey you guys, what's up? Blessing here. Welcome back to my channel. Obviously, as you guys can tell from the title of this video, I wish it was a lot happier, but we gotta talk about it. Actually, to be honest, I will say I was not going to speak on this at all, but I have gotten a few emails in my girl talk email, and some of you have actually reached out to me and asked me what do I think about the whole Surviving R. Kelly docu-series that has been going on. But I will say, in case you do not know what I'm talking about, Lifetime recently came up with the docu-series. It's a 6-part docu-series. It's called Surviving R. Kelly, where basically the R&B musician R. Kelly is being exploited for all of his deeds that he did in the music industry with underage, particularly girls of color and minority girls. And a lot of these girls were underage. We're talking 14, 15, 16, 17, crazy. And so these victims basically come on and they speak about their experiences, and just, it's really granching to watch. But before we do get started, I do want to say, if you are a victim of abuse, it doesn't matter what type of abuse it is, because I don't believe that there's one abuse that is less severe than the next. If you're a victim of abuse, period, this video might be difficult for you to watch, and I totally understand. Abuse is just one of those things that you don't want what you're trying to say to come out wrong. So I am going to do my very best to be as politically correct but still just be honest. And I do want to say to all victims of abuse, I am truly sorry for what you've had to go through, for the pain that you have had to endure. I cannot imagine how you're feeling, but like I said, this video might be difficult to watch, and I totally understand. So to start off with, I will say I have seen other, I'm not sure if I should call it reviews, but I have seen other people speak on this docu-series. And I've kind of just watched it and just sat back and observed and really took notes. But one thing I will say is that everyone has said their opinion and how they feel about the whole docu-series. But one thing I have seen a lot is people kind of saying that it's the victim's fault, or they should have known better, or where were the parents, and this, that, and this other. All I'm going to say, like I said, this is my opinion, and I also want to call attention to a different side and a different perspective. From sitting back and watching this docu-series, I actually watched all 6 parts. Towards the end, I watched with my sisters. I have younger sisters, and part 5 and 6 I actually watched it with Arya. Like, she was sleeping, I was holding her, and some of the parts I would squeeze her onto my skin. Like I said, she was sleeping on my arms, and I just remember feeling like, what if that was my child, or what if that was my sister, or somebody that's like really close to me? Like, how would I feel and how would I take it? And I want us to really have a really good understanding of what it means to be abused, and how someone who is an abused victim, it's so easy to say, oh, you could just get out, or you should have known better, or you should have recognized the signs, or you should have done this, or you should have done that. It's easy to just sit back and point fingers, but the truth is, a lot of us don't know, because we haven't been in those shoes and we haven't been in that situation. But what I also realize is that a lot of people are missing the bigger picture of this whole thing. All of these victims had one thing in common, and that's that they were extremely vulnerable. They were extremely vulnerable, which is how they found themselves in the arms of R. Kelly. If you look at each victim, and if you listen to each and every one of their stories, you will either hear that either they didn't have their parents in their lives, they came from marriages and then had a divorce, and they came from like marriages that were not, that were not healthy, or they just had troubled childhood. Each one of these victims has a story. For example, Lisa Van Allen, which is actually the lady who leaked out the sex tape, her background, I was watching her the other day. Her background story is she comes from foster care. You know, her mom wasn't in her life. She didn't really have a stable background. She met R. Kelly when she was 17 years old. So what abusers and predators tend to do is that it's almost like they have an extra sense. Like, they can sense when a girl or a woman is vulnerable. They can sense when a woman or a girl does not have a strong, you know, background. They can sense when a woman or a girl is in pain. And each of these victims also said that R. Kelly would ask them specific questions like, do you have a boyfriend? Will your parents care if you come to Chicago? Like, specific questions. And this was kind of his way of, you know, luring them in and really like getting them under his wings in a way. So all I'm saying is, before we start judging, yes, the documentary is out there, yes, we're all entitled to our opinions, fine and good, but before we start judging, I really want us to take a step back and say, okay, yes, it's easy for us to say, oh, you could have gotten out, but these women have a story. These women come from troubled backgrounds. Another lady, I can't remember her name, I don't know if it's Antisha or something like that, she said something in this documentary that I had to rewind. I literally had to rewind, and I had to ask myself, did she really just say that? She said her background story was that she came from a marriage where there was a lot of cheating, there was a lot of infidelity, and you know, he wasn't good to her, he wasn't nice to her. And when she met R. Kelly, she appreciated the fact that R. Kelly told her she was not the only woman in his life. Now, when you hear that, as someone who knows what it's like to know your worth, who knows what it's like to feel loved and to feel accepted, there is no woman out there who wants to share their husband with another woman, you know. So for someone to tell you, to get to the point where they're like, I appreciated the fact that R. Kelly told me I was not the only woman in his life. Like, you were okay. And so she was okay with her so-called boyfriend, which was R. Kelly. She was okay with sharing him with other women. Now, any woman who does not come from an abusive relationship, or who does not have an abusive background, or has not, you know, been part of that whole dark situation, like, you would know, like, you know what, no, I'm not going to share my husband. I value myself. I know that I deserve someone all to myself. I don't have to share my man. But because she came from a background where she dealt with a lot of infidelity, a lot of cheating, a lot of mistrust, what R. Kelly told her, she appreciated that. And that's something that I really want us to be sensitive to, is that each one of these girls has a background. Each one of these girls has something that took them there, you know, because it's so easy to say, oh, well, like, parents, you know, you should watch your child closely and you should do this. But we all know what it's like to be a teenager. We all know what it's like to go through those teen years where you just want to do your own thing. Even if your parents tell you no, you still try to find a way to do it anyway. Like, we've all been teenagers before. And I know, like, as a teenager, I was not the best teenage child. So at the same time, parents can only do so much. Yes, of course, you shouldn't be letting your teenage daughter go to an R. Kelly show, especially if you already know, especially if you've already heard certain things about this performer and all of that. You shouldn't be letting your teenage daughter go there. But at the same time, we can't just put all the blame on parents and say, oh, you should have done this. And we also can't put all the blame on the girls, because these girls were so vulnerable. Each one of them, they didn't have, some of them, a lot of them did not have a stable background, did not have a stable, you know, home. A lot of them came from troubled backgrounds. Some of them had, you know, were going through the whole teenage phase, you know, with their parents. For example, the youngest girl, I can't remember these girls' names. I told myself I was going to write their names, but honestly, I can't sit to watch that documentary again. So the youngest girl, I believe she was 14. And she actually went to an R. Kelly concert with both of her parents, like both mom and dad were there. And in the documentary, mom and dad said that they heard things about R. Kelly's past, but they just thought, well, our daughter's here with us, she's going to be fine, nothing's going to happen to her. So even as parents, they felt like they had her, and yet R. Kelly somehow managed to, you know, persuade their daughter pretty much right under their noses. So all I'm saying is, even in that situation, like the mom in the documentary, she said, you know, our daughter she's loving, she's kind, she had a great voice, but we didn't know she was dealing with things as a teenager. As a teenager, like I said, we've all been there. It's not everything that we deal with that we go and tell our parents, like, oh mom, I'm dealing with this, I'm feeling this way. Like, there's something that you go through as a teenager, you feel like you're invincible, you can do your own thing. So to now imagine being 13 years old, going through, you know, all these hormones as a teenager, and you now meet, maybe things are at home aren't going as well, you're going back and forth with your parents, you're constantly arguing, constantly fighting, and all of a sudden you now meet this superstar who has all these great hits and makes all this great music. And let's say you're also, you know, an aspiring musician, and he now comes your way, and you now meet him and you're face to face. The first thing you're gonna feel is probably starstruck, and he now shows interest in you. Of course you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, like, he sees me. Like, how many of us have met celebrities and we're like starstruck, and like, oh my gosh, are you talking to me? Like, seriously, like, you noticed me? So I can just imagine that. And not just that, like, as humans, we want to be loved, we want to be accepted, you want to feel like somebody cares about you. And I feel like R. Kelly really did that with these girls. Like, he knew their situation, so he used it against them. Like, he was like, oh well, they don't have, you know, I'm just going to tell them, like, nobody cares about you, only me, blah blah blah. And that's what abusers do. Like, they get information about your life and then they use that against you. So at 13 years old, you're not thinking, oh my god, I have to recognize signs of this guy is an abusive guy, or I have to recognize signs that this guy is a predator. You don't think of all those things at 13 years old, or at 14, or at 15. So all I'm saying is, R. Kelly allegedly, I know we have to say it, R. Kelly allegedly did all these things. All these strong women have come forth and said their stories. I just want us to be a bit more sensitive towards their stories and what they're saying. It is not easy to go through an abusive relationship. Let's say this. How many of us have been in a relationship where you have been cheated on countless times, but you know you should leave, but you continue to stay because for whatever reason, maybe you feel like you can change the person, maybe you feel like that person is not really in the right senses, maybe you feel like they really love you, they just need time to come around. How many of us have been in a relationship like that? I'll be the first to raise my hand. I've been in relationships where I was cheated on, I was not treated properly, I was mistreated, you know, I was not valued as an individual, but I stayed because for whatever reason I felt like I could change you. You know, you just need to see how great of a person you are. You're just not seeing that right now, so I'm just gonna keep staying. It's kind of the same thing, and I'm gonna tell you, cheating, in my opinion, is also abuse, because every time it's emotional abuse. Every time you cheat on a girl, you leave that girl to wonder, what is it about me that is not good enough? What is it about me that you don't like, that you're not having to go outside and get satisfaction elsewhere? So cheating, in my opinion, is emotional abuse. So imagine being a 13-14-year-old, you meet a superstar, things at home aren't great, you feel like your parents don't care about you, you feel like you don't really have the love and support that you want, and you now have this guy that's telling you all the things that you want to hear, and he's telling you, well, if you go home, like, nobody cares about you, so where are you gonna go, blah blah blah. Like, you stay because you feel like, oh, he cares about me. At least he cares about me. At least he shows interest in my music career. At least he shows interest in me. It's just human nature to want to be loved, to want to be accepted, to want to be cared for. And that's what a lot of these girls felt like. And something else all of these victims had in common is they all said the same thing. R. Kelly and Robert are two different people, allegedly. I have to keep saying that. R. Kelly and Robert are two different people, and that's just how it is with abusers. They're one way in public, which is their good phase, which is the front stage. In sociology, you learn something about front stage and backstage. Front stage is what you want people to see, your good side, your good qualities. You know, you're this Prince Charming, you're humanitarian, you're respectful, you're kind, you're this, you're that. Whereas your backstage is actually who you are in real person. And that's why they would say like R. Kelly and Robert are two different people. R. Kelly is the musician, the genius. Even though he's illiterate and, you know, he's not able to read and write, he still makes this beautiful music that so many of us know and enjoy to. Whereas Robert is the alleged predator and abuser. So that's just, at 13 years old, you're not thinking all of these things. At 14, 15, even at 17, you're not thinking all of these things. Like I said, so many of us have been in a relationship where we have been cheated on, but yet we stay because we feel like we can change a person. And what I'm saying is, the real monster in this whole thing is R. Kelly. And it breaks my heart to go on social media and see the backlash that these women have been getting just for coming out and saying their story. In my opinion, they're super brave. Black women have been treated so poorly, in my opinion. I feel like we are raised to be strong and persevere and endure and endure. No matter the situation, you just gotta stick in there, you just gotta stay there, you just gotta work it out. But all I'm saying is, these women are black, they're minorities. Even the strongest of people need to feel cared for, need to feel loved, need to feel that compassion. And I'm appealing to all of my black brothers out there. It is high time y'all start standing up for us sisters, because it is not fair. Even if you look at the most influential leaders of our time, look at Martin Luther King, for example. We're about to have Martin Luther King Day. Look at Martin Luther King, for example. Behind every strong man is a strong woman. Behind Martin Luther King, his wife Loretta was always there. Like, these strong leaders have had, our black influential leaders have had a strong woman standing behind them. Every time you read about Martin Luther King, you're bound to see Loretta King's name somewhere. Even as of recent, we don't even have to go that far. Look at President Barack Obama, right? Our first black president. Every time you saw him, if it wasn't like something that had to do with like national address or whatever, Michelle Obama was always there. How they speak about each other, that's encouraging, it's powerful, it means something, it's support. I just feel like as black women, we don't really get the support that we need. People just expect us to be strong and to just know better and to just do better and to be able to get ourselves out of sticky situation. You know, there has been a thing going around saying that, oh, had these victims that came out to speak about R. Kelly, had they been white, the response would have been different. I absolutely agree. I feel like I said, as black women, we're taught to be strong and endure and persevere, so people don't take it as seriously. But I'm definitely so thankful that people are speaking up and people are really opening their eyes. And I think it is our duty to also support these victims and tell them and just make them feel like their stories are being heard. You know, I don't feel like it's their fault. If you look at their age and if you look at their backgrounds, like coming from a background where you don't feel loved, you don't feel cared for, your parents aren't really there for you in some of the situation, or you're a teenager and you're kind of going through that phase of you don't want to tell your parents everything that's going on in your life and all of that. Like, we've all been there. Like, we've all been teenagers at some point. You want to be rebellious, you want to do certain things, you don't necessarily make the right decisions. You're not thinking, oh my gosh, this is a red flag and I need to know that. At 13 years old, who knows anything about a red flag? You're just living life, and you see somebody who is respected in the media, who is this musical genius. Of course you're gonna fall into traps. So I just want us to really listen to their stories and understand that these women were vulnerable. R. Kelly, he bred on vulnerable women. These women were not strong. These women were extremely vulnerable. And when you're vulnerable, all you want is somebody to essentially just carry you and give you a hug and love you and just show you that they care a little bit, even if it's fake. And it takes time for you to get to that point. It takes maturity. Of course, now they're older, they see that. It takes time to know, like, okay, no, this guy, he's using these things against me. He's using my past against me. He's using the things that I told him against me. And this is not a healthy relationship. What I had to say on this, like I said. And a lot of you may not know this, but I do get emails about girls who have been in like abusive relationship. You guys know I have a girl talk email, so I have gotten emails about it before. And one thing I do is I just go ahead and reply to them directly on the email. I don't come on YouTube and share this and share like their stories like I normally do with the other girl talks, for the simple fact that I feel like abuse is just one of those things that it's hard to get out of. But the first step is understanding and recognizing that the situation you're in is not normal. And once you recognize that, you have the strength to get out and move on. And so this is actually my first time publicly speaking about abuse on YouTube. And honestly, I just want us to be open-minded and to not be so quick to judge people's situations and say, oh, it's because they wanted to be superstars, or they wanted fame, or they wanted this, or they wanted that. Really go back and listen to each and every one of their stories, and I guarantee you will find something that will make you understand, like, okay, wait, this thing in her life wasn't right, and that's probably why she felt like R. Kelly was a good person. Or you've listened to somebody else's story and you say, oh wait, this thing in her life wasn't straight, so I understand why she would be vulnerable to this situation. Once you are able to put yourself in their shoes and kind of understand, like, maybe that's why you fell for it, then you can better understand these women. But I do just beg and plead that it's time that our Black brothers start standing up for us. Like, we are always there for you guys. When a Black woman holds her man down, she's there for you for life. And we need that support too from the men out there. We need y'all to support us the way we support you guys, and just wake up and see everything that's going on around. And I do want to end that if you're in an abusive relationship, and just know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. You can get out. You don't have to be in that situation. I know it is hard. It's probably difficult. It's a lot easier said than done. But just know that whatever that person is telling you, there are people out there who love you and who care about you and who want you to do well and who want you to succeed. So if you know anyone who's in an abusive relationship, or you're in an abusive relationship yourself, just know that there is a better life waiting for you outside, and you do not deserve to be treated less than who you are. Like, and just recognize the signs. You know, if someone is constantly putting you down or making you feel like you're not good enough, you know, or calling you stupid or calling you names, to you it might all be fun and games and it might just be a joke, but one day you could turn into their punching bag, and it all starts from them just calling you stupid, and you just kind of laughing it over and be like, haha, you call me stupid, haha, you said I'm not intelligent. One day they might just turn into the Hulk and just start punching you, and next thing you know, you're sitting there like, oh my god, how did we get here? Just recognize the signs. No one should ever verbally abuse you. Somebody calling you, somebody making you feel like less than a person. Recognize the signs. They're hard, but you know, certain stripes are hard to hide, so you're bound to find them and you're bound to see them. I just want you guys to know that if nothing else, I love you guys, I care about you guys, and I just want all of us to empower each other, to be strong, to be there for one another, because it is so important. And let's just empower these victims that have come out, and any other victims that you might know of abuse. Just be there, because sometimes you just need a shoulder to cry on, or somebody to just listen to you. But anyway, I love you guys, and I'll see you guys on a much more cheerful, happy video. Love you guys, and God bless.